So if I can teleport, what should I do? Oh.
Dude, what the hell was that?
Dude, follow me. Hey guys, the top 10 is back, but with some adjustments. We're going to quickly fly through the bottom 5 games, almost as if they were honorable mentions, and then do the top 5 like we normally would. So it's just like our normal video with 5 extra games beforehand. We hope you enjoy. Reign of Kings is a promising open world survival in a medieval setting, but is ultimately plagued by servers filled with hackers and that is prone to dropouts. Early access for a reason.
Shelter 2 has great intentions to teach the brutality of nature and what it's like to be a mother, but is undermined by its short duration, lack of choices, and buggy models.
And he's after Granny, the only twig left on my family tree.
The twisted fairy tale theme so well executed in American McGee's Alice deserves to be further explored, but this cringingly overhanded attempt to make Red Riding Hood edgy isn't how. It still looks good at least.
Guess what? A retro-styled roguelike. To be fair, however, Runestone Keeper is well conceived and constantly challenges the player to keep playing and improve.
3D art in a 2D world. The dear god's ideas of reincarnation and humans as part of nature were promising at the time of its Kickstarter. However, it doesn't exactly translate in practice, with its roguelike elements interrupting its narrative and flow.
Four sexy companions go to the woods to set up a summer camp. Too bad nobody told them.
Lakeview Cabin Collection is a bit of a sleeper that hit us at the end of the month. It's a tribute to 70s and 80s slasher films whilst also providing a fresh perspective on them by casting you as one of the characters. So whilst unwisely spending the weekend at an isolated Lakeview cabin with 3 friends, you discover you can pretty much do whatever you want in the game's sandbox world. You can get high, get drunk, zipline, kill some local wildlife, cut up your friends or whatever else you can think of. But as much fun as the chaos is, it may be best to unleash it after the horrors of the lake rise up and it becomes a crazy do what you can to survive situation.
This is the extended edition of 3-Force Home, but since we never talked about it last year, we're going to take that opportunity now. It's a very short visual story from the perspective of Callie. She left home a long time ago, and now she's driving through desolate Nebraska and back to the small town where she grew up. Her mother rings worried she might get caught in the approaching storm that acts as a metaphor for Callie's return. As the call continues and the phone is passed around, the worries of Callie's family are uncovered. And as the player, you sit there listening in the minimalist Nebraskan cornfields that are silent but for the ambience of the road. You do make dialogue choices and keep the car moving by holding down a solitary button, but for the most part, 3-Force Home doesn't intrude on the player. It lets you unconsciously relate to and think about your own family, making it a very emotional experience.
Hotline Miami 2 released to a lot of fanfare this month, except here in Australia where it failed to get a rating and as such be released. We're not going to get into the politics of it, but hopefully we'll be able to play the game sometime this year. Emphasis on the hope. From what we've read, Hotline Miami 2 has a fairly mixed reception. Paraphrasing Rock Paper Shotgun, the sequel differs from the original by shifting the focus from reckless killing sprees to a more purposeful and precise maneuvering within the game's rule set. For instance, you can kill an enemy, but will only be detected by other foes once you enter their eyesight. The game is asking the player to be more aware, and this makes for a spike in difficulty for those who aren't wary. It's a bold difference in direction, which is a particularly fitting end to such a bold series.
I was lost. My mind didn't belong to me anymore. Trapped in the tumult of the accident.
Building suspense out of a helpless unknowing is undoubtedly White Knight's greatest strength, and it's done in cleverly original ways too. The chiaroscuro contrast of light and dark makes the darks even darker, and almost consume the game's rooms to leave you feeling vulnerable. Its fixed camera angles take control out of your hands, and the cinematic shots are used to heighten the sense of the unknown. White Knight can be knocked for its mostly clunky puzzles that can unnecessarily get you stuck at times, but as we argued in our video review, this didn't really matter. The game builds a haunting atmosphere like that of the original Resident Evil, that draws you in and pulls you along on anxious adrenaline. It also has a cool jazz soundtrack. If you want an in-depth look at White Knight, please do check out our review. We think it's pretty good stuff.
After such widespread critical and consumer acclaim, it's really no surprise that Ori and the Blind Forest is our #1 game for March. Ori is impressive for so many reasons. The art is impeccable and makes it hard to believe that underneath it all, this game is a 2D platformer. The soundtrack is similarly meticulous in design, the story is touching, and the whole thing was made by collaborators from all over the globe. You may notice that we're being fairly vague in our description, but that's because next week we're going to explain in more detail why Ori was our #1 game for March in a new video series, so stay tuned for that. Also, if you want to know more about any of these games, head to the comments section and we can discuss things there.
That's it for this month, guys, and as always, thanks for watching. My name's Lawrence.
And my name's Josh, we'll see you next time here on Indieformer. Dude, what was that?
Dude, come with me to a place of imagination.